And it does matter. Just to start off with something that nobody knows what they're saying beforehand, but it matters.
Always matters.
Everything you say matters to me.
Oh, you're so sweet.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just meant, like, so much going on that, like, it's mostly just the same stuff. Like, just figure out how to sum it all up, basically.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. I am certainly sick of the Kavanaugh thing being in the news.
Yeah, like, it's just getting so old.
I really
so
didn't
annoying.
think it was going to be a story, like, when it first happened, because it was very... It's just like there's not... As I keep saying, there's just not a lot of meat on that bone. There's just nothing to, like, pick apart. You're not, like, analyzing anything.
Well, I mean, when it first came out, I was like, man, that's crazy. Like, I can't believe, something like that would happen. And then, like, they went through the allegations. I was just like, how is this even brought forward?
Yeah.
Like, with with what we see now, especially, like, the story. Like, there really just isn't anything there.
Yeah, well, that's why I didn't think it was going to have much legs, because, like, nobody was supporting her. Nobody was really supporting her story.
Yeah.
But it's like, I guess it was just like a last ditch effort by the Democrats to try and stall Kavanaugh's nomination, so they really grabbed onto it. And, people have run with it.
Well, I know.
Like, I'm surprised.
You can see it was such a terrible idea, like, for them to do, though. Like, I don't understand, like, who told them it was going to be a good idea to stick with it, or, like, what they were thinking, because, I mean, it really has just polarized everything.
Well, that's the thing by getting rid of the 60 votes needed. It's like you can't really do anything to stop it. So you have to kind of like something like this, which is like a character assassination, is kind of like the only route you could go, because then it's like, well, if he starts getting tarnished in the public and the senators feel heat, and it's always been sort of especially with Trump in office, like, that is the other factor. It's like you have this guy in there who's been pretty scummy with women in his past, like much more provably. And then it's like, hey, do you want to be the party that's like the party of Trump, and then also this guy with this cloud hanging above him now?
Yeah. But it's just like when you run with allegations that aren't even close to being proven, like, you see what's happening now is people are even further behind them.
Yeah, well, it's definitely seemed
they they amped up their competition now. Like, I mean, they were hoping for a big blue wave coming, and I don't think it's coming now, because they've gotten people amped right before this election.
That's what you're hearing now. It's like, I think I saw somebody tweet out, like, the Quinnipiac poll that said, like, they cut, like, their lead. They cut the lead that the Democrats had in the polling for the Congress to half, and then they increased their lead from being for the Democrats having a 33% chance of taking the Senate to a 25% chance of taking the Senate.
Yeah.
So it seems like public opinion is sort of against them on this, because it's, all, like, a lot of what when she first came out, I think I said that I sort of, like, I don't really have a trouble, like, believing her. Like, there's not... I leaned a lot more towards I believed her than I didn't believe her, just because of the her saying it 5 years ago, like, to her therapist.
Mm-hmm.
It made it seem to me like it's like it would be like, I mean, the guy, like you planned that 5 years ago, like, not likely.
No.
Like, you have to be a serious... Like, how did you know Brett Kavanaugh was going to get nominated to the Supreme Court? You just wait till then?
Well,
you could have... If you wanted to ruin him, like, you come out with it 5 years ago, and it probably still has the same effect. Yeah. I mean, he was a...
Some people said that the same year she went to the therapist was the year that they ran an article talking about how he was on Mitt Romney's Supreme Court
picks.
Yeah, pics in 2012.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, that's a leap. Like, I'm not saying that has any credibility. I'm just saying that's what they have shown is his name was in the news in 2012, the same year that she supposedly...
Well, that's the thing. There's definitely enough reasonable doubt in the story where it's like you can't, like you cannot say that he, like certainly this would never pass in court. Like if it was an actual like court case, there's just no way to convict on that. You convict on one person's story when 3 other people who she named as witnesses all deny it. Like there's no, no place, no time.
I mean, two people I can understand in that group that she named denying it. Brett Kavanaugh and his friend. I understand why they would deny it and they would have reason to lie.
Yeah.
Her friend, though, denying it is what really swung me. Like, saying that she's never, ever been at a party with Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah. And now it's even getting even worse, like, against her, where it was like, I was more inclined to believe her when it started, but now things are coming out with the boyfriend saying that she lied about she said she couldn't fly to Washington, D.C. because she was claustrophobic and all this and she said it was like, and the reason it's relevant, it's not just a little lie, it's because she said she was claustrophobic due to the fact that, due to this, like, assault.
Yeah. Well, the original reason why they said they went to counseling for her husband and her to go see the therapist was they were arguing about a house where there would be two doors or something like that.
Yeah, she needed like 2 exits because she was...
because of that experience.
Yeah.
And so her boyfriend also said that she lived in a 500 square foot apartment with 1 door when they dated in the late 90s, I guess.
Well, and the other thing about that 2-door story is that it turns out, like, according to the records, that they had that, like... They had that installed 5 years before she had said, like, she had stated, like, that was the reason that came up during therapy. They had it installed before there, and the reason they had it installed was because they were renting out the apartment next door to, like, college students or something. It was rented out.
See, just like every part of that story falls apart under any scrutiny at all.
Yeah, and her boyfriend also said she coached a friend on a polygraph test, although I think I heard the friend came out now and said that's not true.
Yeah.
But neither of those things were said under oath. So, I mean, but like I said, it's just all, like, the waters are very muddy now.
What wasn't said under oath?
The friend coming out. Like, neither was, I don't think the boyfriend.
No, the boyfriend.
Okay, the boyfriend was. Then her friend coming out and saying it wasn't under oath. Yeah. But everything's a little, yeah. It's all a little muddy now. Or it's like her story's just become a lot, I'm less inclined to believe it than when I first heard it.
And like I said to you the other day,
I could still believe that something happened and that, this was, I guess I was always sort of leaning towards, or it might have been Kavanaugh, I was always leaning, like the way I had, like my original, like, take was that it might have happened, it might have been Brett Kavanaugh, but it's also sort of subjective, like the way you experience something later. Like, a little event can traumatize you more than it, what I'm saying, and loom larger in your mind that it actually happened. Like, he might have just, he might have just, jumped her a little and, like, tried to, like, kiss her, which is still obviously wrong. It's not like that's nothing. But it's not like we're as dangerous as she described it at the moment. But, or it's possible... it happened just the way she said it, but...
Yeah.
But so I was leaning towards, like, it was more like that. It was more like it was somewhere, like, in between where he wasn't, like, as much of a predator at the moment as she was remembering it. And it was just that sort of, like, 36 years is a long time to remember, something.
Yeah.
Or, memory just doesn't work that way. Especially when it's something traumatic. Like, you don't, like, have... just crystal clear memories.
Yeah.
At least this is what I remember in a psychology class. Like, when it's something that you think you're supposed to remember, then it's like the brain starts, like, picking out, like, specific details and, like, it starts to, like, embellish or, like, imbue the memory with more specifics thinking that it's like you're supposed to remember this. So like now it's like, oh, I remember it clearly. Like there was a fire hydrant here and a thing there, and then it's like a lot of that stuff turns out to be not 100% trustworthy.
Yep, mind is a weird thing. I don't know, I'm just tired of it at this point.
Like, yeah, I really am tired of it. I would be.
I'm tired of the moral superiority that's trying to be taken. For the most part, I think that's what I'm tired of.
What do you mean?
It's like, I don't care if you investigate, like, do all this other sorts of stuff, but to say that you're more moral because, you're on one side or the other is beyond me.
Yeah. Well, well, actually, what do you mean by that?
Like, just the whole, really both sides are doing it, but, the whole, well, I believe in women, so I'm better than you. It's like, okay. I would have believed her, too, if there was some evidence.
Yeah. Well, this is what I was saying to you the other day. It's I think, I always took what they were maybe trying to get at more so when they say believe all women, is that you want to create just the safest environment for people to come out in and to feel like that they're supported in doing so. And even that system will end up with people women taking advantage of everyone's good nature, but that's a fine price to me. And it's true that's I'm sure every woman that comes out, especially if you're coming out against somebody big, there are going to be some people that are going to give them, what would you call that? They're going to attack them. They're going to say you're a slut, you knew what you were doing or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's the way people talk, especially if it's, not so much with this scenario, but a lot of, you see that kind of stuff with athletes a lot. Yeah. It's any woman that sleeps with them, people just kind of assume oh, she was a slut, and that's what she wanted, which obviously isn't isn't right. So there's definitely some area to be you want to create a safe environment for people to come out. But that doesn't mean believe all women though is not the right way to phrase that.
But when it's the doubling down. It's not just the first statement, because if you say that and I say, okay, I'm with you on that aspect, like what you said, but I'm not for say believing her even when all of the evidence looks like it's the other way, and you're still doubling down on it. It's now you're just being political. It's...
Well, certainly in this scenario. Well, in this scenario, it's totally political. I mean, this stuff happens. There are cases where I think that happens outside of that, where I'm not sure it's... it's not always politically motivated. Obviously, this situation is nothing but politics, where it's they just want to stall, and it didn't really matter whether or not there was new evidence against him or not. It's not like they were ever going to consider Kavanaugh. Yeah, it's we're going through this 3 weeks of 2 or 3 weeks of this kind of a nonsense story, and then it's going to be at the end oh look, they voted according to their parties. Mm-hmm. So that's that's the but yeah, sorry, I think I kind of interrupted you.
No, you're good. Did you see we'll see if it actually happens, but did you see Trump's his prediction?
What did he say?
He said, remember this number, 53 to 47.
That's what he thinks the vote's going to be?
Well, I don't know, and to be honest, I don't know if he was talking about what the Senate's going to look like after elections, or if he was talking about the votes for Kavanaugh. But that was his... He said, remember those numbers.
Remember the day. Yeah. Well, I'm sure for him, it's
whichever one works, he'll
that's what I was going to say. It's he keeps it as vague as possible. Remember this. W. He's I told you.
Did you see his saying the other day? He said the only reason to vote Democrat was if you were tired of winning.
Well, there you go. We're tired of all this winning. Please stop us. Please spare us. Too much winning.
That's just really funny reading it. I was Wow.
Did you see that he got in trouble because of what he was saying at his rally?
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of mocking. Her.
Yeah, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
Not much more you can say about it. Doesn't help anything.
That's all Forrest got to say about that.
I mean, like, what can you do? It's Trump. Like, that's just how he acts.
Yeah. At this point, it doesn't really make a dent anymore. At least you don't think
that's
so.
That's typical from him. I don't think it helps.
Yeah,
the whole thing,
it certainly doesn't help. Not if you're just looking at it politically. It doesn't.
Like, we were already doing good as far as like numbers that we needed, and
the story had already was already winning for the Republicans, and so like the more like he was just kind of being like he was a little he held himself in for a little bit, like for I think a whole week there he was like, she's a very nice lady and we need to hear her story. It's like, oh wow, and then he's just like. Yeah. You're just like King Kong fighting out of his chains, like no.
They asked
they got him in front of a crowd. That's his catnip. He can't. Red meat.
They asked Lindsey Graham about it, and he was just like, "Yeah, I don't agree with him. Like, he should have just shut up." But he's like, "But you want?" And then he quoted something from previous. I don't even remember what it was from. He said what it was from, but I don't remember what it was. It was like, that's what happens when you drag a $100 bill through a trailer park or something like that. Apparently that's been said before after allegations came across for somebody else, probably on the Democratic side since he's quoting it. I'm sure he was
right. It had to do with the Bill Clinton allegations. I think it was Juanita Broaddrick. I think.
Could have been.
Yeah. It was one of those women that he assaulted.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
I think that was the main thing too with me is like just the hypocrisy of it. Like these politicians acting like they gave a shit about like this woman. Like they don't give a shit about her.
No, they don't.
Like because when Juanita because I've watched a few interviews with Juanita Broaddrick, who accused Bill Clinton of raping her. And she said that Feinstein, who else? Several other Pelosi, like all those people that are real big right now supporting women, didn't even read her deposition before they voted, to do whatever against Clinton.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was his impeachment vote or
no, that wasn't his
something
impeachment.
else. Yeah, but they didn't even read it before they voted for him.
Yeah, no, I mean they're total users. That's people have been saying that about Dianne Feinstein, who released the letter even though she was told not to.
Mm-hmm.
And to hold it up like this, if her, I've heard some people say her life is getting ruined, but I think that's a little bit of a...
Whose life's getting ruined?
Christine Ford.
Bullshit.
Yeah, she raised
she's gotten how much money off of that GoFundMe or whatever? Yeah. She's close to $1 million, I think, now.
Yeah.
Pretty sure she's doing and people will forget this shit. If depending on.
I'm sure she's getting some amount of nasty shit, but she's also getting a lot of support, and especially
people are assholes. They're gonna do that. They could have done that no matter what.
Yeah, she's getting both sides of it. It's kind of crazy to say. Especially if she just got $1 million for a GoFundMe, she's at least everyone in the mainstream media is, or what you want to call the mainstream media.
Yeah.
The traditional media.
Well, that's
at least they're supporting her. That's
what I was saying yesterday.
For the most part,
how biased the reports have been on it have just been ridiculous. The boyfriend's his allegations against her.
The one that said he stole the credit card.
Yeah, it wasn't ever covered.
Yeah.
Almost at all.
Yeah.
I get it because I have a lot of conservative news sites that are attached to our Twitter, but it was not covered at all by the mainstream media.
Yeah. Yeah, well, certainly everyone's falling into their camps about this one. And that's the thing. It's just such an obvious. I think that's why it's kind of like, the why it's kind of united, like people on the right, is because it's so obviously political. There's no there's not strong evidence to support her, and and they're using it just to destroy like Brett Kavanaugh's like name, and people do feel like a certain sort of like righteous indignation about it, because it's not really fair to him. I mean, I really think he's gotten the worst deal out of all this. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Because it's not just like her allegations. Like, if it was just her allegations, that'd be one thing. But it's also these ones that are way less credible, that are attached to him and his family's name.
Yeah, the gang rape one.
Yeah.
That they've interviewed her now on air twice.
Yeah.
With no evidence. She's changed her statement on air.
Yeah.
Like, it's just absolutely outrageous.
And it's just the sort of thing where it's like, do you really think there's no evidence of that sort of thing, where it's like you're saying they were running parties where they were gang raping women? Like, that was your accusation.
And nobody's come forward at all.
Yeah, and once again...
And she went to 10 of those parties.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And she just kept going back, even though she knew what was happening. Like, really?
Yeah. And then once again, like, people that know her are coming out, like, and against the story. So, I mean, like, those ones are much less, like credible. Like I said, I could believe the Dr. Ford story, but the other ones is, like, very hard to believe. And, but now they're attached to his name, you know what I mean? And SNL's, like, making fun of him. Yeah. For, like, people are, like...
with Matt Damon. What a fucking hypocrite.
Well, because he got attacked for the Me Too movement. That's why I will never watch
the Bourne series.
Bourne series is
glad
pretty
I've never
good.
seen him, because that man cannot play a badass.
They're pretty good.
Because he's a giant pussy.
Wait, why is he a hypocrite? Or
did you not see his thing on like the deal in the New York Times where he like killed the first story of the Harvey Weinstein allegations? Like, he covered for that rapist. Yeah. But he's going to bash Kavanaugh.
How exactly did he like stop the story?
It was an article that they wrote. I don't know. I have to look it up.
The New York Times wrote it about him?
They wrote it about Harvey Weinstein, I think.
And he killed it. How does he have that much sway in the New York?
Did I have to go look up the article? I don't know.
I don't know. You're making accusations here.
He also said he was also the one that got like bashed too, because he was like, he was actually being a little bit milquetoast in the middle when all the Me Too stuff started happening. He was like, "Oh, guys, we can't just have all these bad allegations," and everybody like fucking piled on to him, and he was like, "Oh."
He made some sort of, I think his point was something like, was it just about like the need to not categorize all these things together? It was something like that.
Yeah, it was something very milquetoast that should have been agreeable to most people.
Yeah, but he did get attacked.
Exactly. And this is him. This is just him trying to get back into the limelight with his buddies. No, guys, I didn't do anything against y'all. Here, look, I'll make fun of Brett Kavanaugh real quick because I'm a giant pussy.
Yeah, but that's just more of the proof that he's getting it a lot like worse to me, because like when now he's being like mocked on a national stage for being upset, that he's being accused of these things.
And then these people say he can't be on the Supreme Court now because he's biased. It's like, oh, I wonder why.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's directly personal to him, It's
like
how can you not be biased?
Y'all tried to ruin his reputation.
Yeah, it's hard not to be biased when you're saying, I don't know, when he's saying like these things against me are false. Like, why would I not be upset? And especially when like there's ones that they are running with in the media that are, like I said, just way, way less credible. I mean, it's like, it's one thing to have the Ford story. That's one thing. But to be printing stuff that's just like totally out of bounds, and like now they're going like, they're picking apart every detail of his life from when he was 17 and 21, like, like 16 to 21. Mm-hmm. It's like, I mean, God help me if that was ever like done to me. Like, for real. You know what I mean? It's like, and I wasn't like the the craziest of people, but you could. I mean, you would definitely.
You
if
can
you
spin things though from that long
yeah,
ago. Like,
I mean, you could definitely.
I mean, the shit, like we were talking about, like the stuff that he wrote in those yearbooks, like the Devil's Triangle and something else. They were like, oh no, these are sexual things, blah 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 blah, like all this stuff. It's like, yeah, of course they are in some references, like can't deny that, but like his friends from high school have come out and said, like, no, actually that was a drinking game that we came up with, like, and people that are like years removed from him, like say that, like, yeah, I go to, like, I've been through that school. And they still play a game that's called that.
Yeah, people got their different, like, colloquialisms, or if that's what you want to call it, or if that's the right word. Idiom?
I don't know.
I think
sounds good.
I think colloquialism is the right word.
Yeah, sounds right.
I'm just going to look that up quickly.
Don't want to look too stupid.
Yeah. Well, if you use a big word but like it's the wrong, like,
People are like, wow,
it was like,
I'm an idiot.
Yeah, that wasn't even close.
Somebody learned a new word today?
Yeah. No, I think I learned that, an idiom from, you've seen the show Archer?
Yeah.
There is that one thing where it's like, where like they were trying to translate the idioms, and like it was just like a running joke. That's where I learned this.
I don't know, man. I think this has definitely helped turn up the pressure on a lot of people to go out and vote. But I think it's a lot of things though that's been leading up to it though.
Yeah, I think colloquialism's right. A lot of things leading up to what?
Like the switch in the polls that we've been seeing. Like I didn't ever really think that there was going to be that big of a blue wave, even though you did.
No, I still don't know. But, like, the thing is, the Republicans are kind of lucky and unlucky in this because it might be now, like, they're getting all this heat now, but when's the midterms election? A month away?
November.
Yeah, November.
I think they can keep things.
Like, if he just goes through now, which it looks like he's going to.
If he doesn't go through, I think that hurts them more than if he does.
I think it'll hurt enthusiasm more if he does, like, because it'll be like, oh, well, we got that thing settled. Because a lot of people, like, like my, like my dad, for instance, not a big Trump guy, but really is afraid of the Supreme Court being run by, like, Democrats. Like, so, and there's a lot of people that were like that, like, specifically voted for him because of, like, a lot of Christians, I think, fall into that category where it's like they just don't want, judicial activism coming down and forcing things on them.
Yeah.
Like, they'd rather, like, they feel safer that it won't go through the Senate, which is probably...
I don't know, though, man. I think they will...
I think it might dampen enthusiasm, like...
I don't think it will. I think that because of what you've seen with the violence that's been happening to these people...
Is this... Am I going to have to hit the segue button?
Oh. So good. See, nobody would notice if you wouldn't call it out.
But it was like, it was because I saw you, because like you're going like this, you're looking at the board, you're looking at the board with the topics.
I'm trying to think of how many, I could have segued so many different ways into this, like you wouldn't even believe.
Boy,
I could have gone to any of those
topics. Boy, I segue you to death. I'm about to hit your ass with a segue, son.
I'm about to hit like 3 of these different things all at once. Bam, bam, bam.
All right, hit me.
Nah, it was like you seeing like the violence that's coming. They're running, like Beto O'Rourke was doing good, man. But now you've had an instance where Ted Cruz was run out of a restaurant.
Yeah,
like that fires up Democrats, but that pisses off Republicans. They sent a letter to his Houston office with white powder in it. It wasn't anything dangerous, but they're doing it to scare him. You've got Rand Paul's wife that has come out and said that, like, they were doxxed. Him, Orrin Hatch, Mike Lee, like, those people have been doxxed. Their home addresses sent out, their cell phone numbers sent out.
And it was traced to the office of a congresswoman, correct?
Representative Sheila Lee Jackson, I think. Jackson Lee, something like that. I think it's Sheila Jackson.
I think Sheila Jackson. That sounds familiar.
I think her middle name's Lee, though.
Sheila Jackson Lee, GOP
Okay, there you
doxing
go.
suspect, arrested, worked, or interned for Feinstein Jackson Lee. Other.
Same lady that handed Ford's lawyer an envelope in the middle of the hearing.
Let's not.
Conspiracies.
Yeah. It was an intern. Like I just typed in her name. It was an intern. It was so like it might have not been someone. I mean, might have not been somebody formally connected with their office, but it does show that the person
connected with her office, but it's connected with the rhetoric, though.
Yes.
You have people like Maxine Waters telling people to go out and harass these people, get in their face. Cory Booker said that. Get in their face. Like, you get in my face, I'm going to put you on the ground. Like, you're lucky these senators are nice.
No.
Because, trust me, I would not be that nice. Like, you would see me fighting every day that somebody got in my face.
You
like,
just
do
be
it.
swinging on your constituents.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. Because they're probably not even their constituents. They're assholes that just protest for a living.
Possibly. DC.
I mean, they're in D.C.
Remember that weird video we were watching of those people that were like the pro-weed people? Mm-hmm. That were mad at that Delaware congressman and they were laying in his office?
Yeah.
That one was strange.
You know they don't work. They have time to go to D.C. and just goof around like that.
Goof around. Quit goofing.
There's God, what was that letter? What university did I tell you yesterday that put out a course for a free credit if they were willing to go and protest in D.C.?
I don't remember the
if they signed up for it. I think it was Maine. It was a university in Maine, I think. I retweeted it yesterday.
University. What was university credit for protesting?
Yeah, I mean, it was, here, University of Maine. That's who it was.
It was University of Maine. Yeah.
So, yes, to send people to protest and harass Senator Collins to vote no on Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
Like, that's outrageous for a college to do that.
I think that's wrong. But, like, once again, this is, like, there's not, most of the, like, the stories like this, I don't think people generally notice. The ricin thing, like... The people, I don't think they generally notice. Like, I don't think that would have stopped. The Kavanaugh thing is just one of those things that it's become such a story that, like, everyone, like, knows and, like, you know, it has to be a story that's big enough where everyone has an opinion on it. Mm-hmm. And it, like, you know, to be, like, uniting. Like, these little small acts of violence, you know, I mean, like, they're bad, but it's like, you know what I mean? You could find these stories at least once a month of... You know, something that's this outrageous, like outrageous in this small way. Like, I don't think people pay attention.
It's going to be a great RNC ad to put together. All these events.
Certainly, you can make
the violence coming from the left.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, you know, but I mean, most of them are small incidents, and the main, like the bulk of their party can always disassociate from it, and it's kind of.
But they won't. That's the great part about it, though, is they don't disassociate themselves with it. They go towards it.
I'm sure they would no one would go towards sending like Mad Dog Mattis like ricin. Like, I'm sure.
How much you want to bet? Did you?
Well, Don Lemon.
The things I read on Twitter about the attack on, or the thing sent to Houston. To Ted Cruz's office, those people don't give a shit. I'm telling you, they would rather him die. Because that's what kind of people they are.
Certainly the people that are ensconced in the everyday battle of politics, like they're at that hateful point where they don't care. They certainly seem to have reached, I mean, you know, they're certainly at that level. But you gotta also, there has to be some sort of separation, I guess, between like what these like psychopaths are doing and and it's bad when people like Cory Booker or Maxine Waters are saying like, hey, go out and harass these people.
That's what I'm saying, is they are not going away from it.
That's bad. Like, that's
They're
really
going
bad.
towards it.
Like, you know, there are always some like wackadoos on like the outskirts. Like, I think the mailing of threats, I think everybody would condemn that. But like, they are creating an environment where it's like it's okay to be, or like where they're saying you should be getting in these people's face, you should be attacking them, you should be sort of, you know, like the restaurant thing. Like Don Lemon came out and said like, you know. Well, it's what they signed up for. Like, that's bad. Like, you don't want to, like, that's not the kind of thing. Like from like the people who are in like the more upper echelons of like either media or just like, you know, their congresswomen and senators. Like, you got to be more responsible than that. You can't be like calling for your side to do things like that. And it's not what they signed up for, and it's not, you know, and it's obviously wrong, like, to harass people.
That's what I'm saying, though, is they're not going away from that. They are going straight into it. Like, they want that.
What I think you want to do is, like, the same sort of compassion and, you know, like, empathy that you say drives you to care about, you know, the oppressed people and, you know, women and minorities and these things. Like, extend that to your enemies as well. Like, show those people the same sort of like try to show them at least a modicum of the same sort of like compassion and understanding that you would extend to somebody who you see like trodden. You know, try to cultivate that sort of mindset where it's like, we're all humans, and I see your, you know, and I see your what you're thinking as well, and I see from your point of view like why you would want this, as well as like but I also see, you know, the people that you want to protect. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what you would hope people would be moving more like towards. Like, that's what you want to cultivate instead of like this thing where it's a fight.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see it happening right now.
No, certainly not right now. At least not in the upper quadrants.
I mean, I think it'll just keep going this way. It's the same thing. Like, it's just little things that, you know, you noticed as things go along. It's the, like, you know, this keeps happening. They keep doing stuff to the Republicans. Like, and they're going to keep going with it until something, you know, stops them. Something bad happens.
Well, you would hope that, like, if they had, like, one more sort of devastating loss, it would sort of make you start to reevaluate what you're, you know, because, well, that's the thing. Saying, like, it's up to the people not to, like, endorse those sort of like things. Yeah. You know, well, like,
I'm just saying it's things like, so these people have come out and said these things about getting in people's faces, doing this stuff after somebody shot up a Republican baseball practice.
Right.
Like, somebody tried to kill Republican senators. Probably nobody remembers at this point.
I think Congressman.
Yeah, whatever.
Just keep the record.
Republican politicians.
Yeah.
And these people still come out and say these things after stuff like that has happened.
Yeah.
So, I don't think they're going to change their mind. So, it's up to people who are voting.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Show it.
Yeah,
but they have enough crazy people in those big cities to keep voting for these people.
Well, that's the thing is, like, a lot of those things, like, I still think a good portion of it just goes under people's radar. You know what I mean? It's like, people don't think about their politics. They're just sort of like, you know, for the most part, it's like, for whatever one reason or the other, I identify with this group, you know, either because that's just the way I think I should, or that's the way the people around me are, or whatever reason people have for being in their little tribe. You know, like, they just have, like, it's just like something on their resume. You know what I mean? It's just like a little box I have checked, but they're not engaging day to day in the politics. Like, so they don't even see, you know, so they don't see those things as being like relevant to the issue. Like, I'm sure if you had like a referendum specifically on that, like, people would more heavily come like off the side of we should be harassing people in their homes, and we should be you know, attacking and fighting the right with violence. Like, I think like a majority of them would not be on that side. But it's like that's not the way you end up seeing the world. It's like you end up seeing it where it's like we have to stop these. We have to stop a guy who's crazy from being in the office. Or we have to stop the party of racists, or we have to, protect the little guy. Like that's the way they end up seeing it. So it's not like they're voting in favor of those things. They're just not like that's just not the way they view it. It's not like the thing that's preeminent in their mind when they're making the decision. It's like these are the guys I want to vote for. It's like like that's my I have like a vague sense that Republicans are all like crazy stuff, are all crazy, stuffy, religious, like racist. Like that's like my notion of it from not looking like this isn't me saying like that. Obviously, I'm just saying like I think this is the way people like that's the way it is in their mind. Like I have this vague sense that they're just a bunch of
those
like
people
racist
vote them.
Puritans. Well, they. Well, that's
people talk about people coming out to vote and how low they are and everything like that. Like I think it should be even lower because that's how many people actually pay attention to politics. If you don't pay attention, don't go out and vote.
Right. I've actually heard some people say that there should be like
lower.
There should be like some sort of voting requirement. It's an interesting idea, but then it's like, then but it's just a whole bag of worms.
I don't think it should be a requirement. That's the problem. Is it because I believe in freedom, I think you should have the right to vote. I think you should have the right to come out and vote. I think you should not be an asshole and understand that if you are uninformed on the topics, you shouldn't go vote.
Mm. The thing is, like, most issues are just... This is why I like, federalism, or not federalism. What would you call that? Is that called federalism? When it's like more things are delegated to the states? Whatever you would call that these days.
No, I think federalism is more towards the federal government.
Yeah, that's why I said like that didn't
States'
sound right.
rights.
Yeah, that's why I like things being just breaking down as small. Make your problems make all problems as small as you can. Because that's the thing. That's why these national elections turn out there's never going to be a voting populace that's like well informed on the issues. Because like the people in power aren't probably the most well informed on all these issues. Like the actual technical nitty gritty of it.
For sure.
Like what I mean? It's like I couldn't. They have packages that get passed and like no one knows what's in them.
Yeah.
Like no one that's voting on them knows what's in them. So don't tell me like they're like, they're experts. I mean, like they know obviously a general like little more, but they don't. But like if you were sort of like to nail down things, they would probably be just as.
I don't know. I've heard enough of them speak to know that they don't know.
Yeah. So it's not so it's like the politicians don't even have that sort of expertise. And especially when it's like a bunch of issues, like maybe if I like dedicated my whole life, I can understand, healthcare to like a very specific degree.
This is why I don't understand why people put their faith in a large government.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But that was my point. It's like just like let it be as small as people, and that's the thing though. I was gonna say like it becomes people need to make it simple, so like they make it about stuff that they can understand with an easy grasp. Like Trump is an asshole. That's an idea I can hold with my hand. I can wave it above my head. I feel like it's got good control. I feel it's like I can really. This idea feels good on me. Like that's an easy thing to understand. Very simple. So you can put down your politics to all things like that. Like Barack Obama is cool. Like that's fine. Like you know what I mean. Or even it's even less than that actually. It's more just like this guy has an R on his shirt. I'm voting for him. Like you just make it as easy as you can break it down.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those things. I think we're in that phase though, where everybody's starting to it's gonna be too like it's going to permeate through culture so much now, like just how much further the left is going, like how reasonable things are. It's like you said, most people don't pay attention to that kind of stuff at the moment because it's not big stories, but I think it's slowly starting to permeate. You're seeing this stuff with Kanye, that's permeating into the culture because he's huge. They're saying how he's being bullied just for wearing the hat. Permeating. James Wood.
I see what you're doing.
Yeah,
I see what you're doing.
Segues.
And yes, I see your segue. And I will say this just before we talk about about Kanye. I don't think there's that's not the way people are seeing, there's just as much out there where people would say the Republicans are being like the crazy out of hand ones. There is just as much as that. Like
what?
That.
On what, though?
They see what's going on with the deregulating. Like, they think that's crazy. They think
all the more money, the more jobs that people have,
I would urge you to try and think of it from the way they're seeing it. If I go through all these things, I'm just telling you the things people see. If you're you can mock them all as they come because you don't agree with it.
Well, I'm just saying, they're deregulating, but Amazon's starting to pay their workers $15 an hour. Not through the government, not having to have a minimum wage through the government. They're doing it on their own.
Some of the people that are getting through, this was another one that I heard. What was I gonna say? Like Scott Pruitt is probably the most prominent example of this sort of thing. Like Scott Pruitt, him approving him for a cabinet position, and then him turning out to be kind of a crook. And then other people like that. A lot of his picks are sort of maligned in that way. People probably think Jeff Sessions is a little crazy, or the what's the name of the woman who's running the Department of Education?
She's big. I know.
Yeah. Let me look up her name because I can't remember it right now.
Those people are doing good right now, though.
Well, that's not the way other people see it, and they think those are excesses on the right, or the client.
So what I'm saying is that maybe people still see the craziness on the right, but it's starting to slowly show the bias on the things that are being shown to them by these media outlets. Is they're showing them all this crazy stuff Republicans are doing, but they're also showing them how Kanye is being abused just because of wearing a hat.
By the way, you want to know I remember to put that on the board?
Why?
Because I went to go get my hat. And I remember that he said, when he put on his hat, when he put on the MAGA hat, he said, "This is my Superman cape. When I put it on, it means you can't bully me." And I was doing that when I put on my Yankee cap. I was like, "This is my Superman cape." Hold on, I need to look at this.
Yours is a little bit less powerful.
No, it's actually more powerful. We won, as I predicted.
You won one game. Good job.
Yeah, we did. We won. Well, we won No, we won 100 games, and then we won and then we won our
really
playoff
fun
game.
When y'all lose, and I get to read that tweet from what's his face from Barstool.
Carabas.
Yeah. Get to
Betsy
read his
DeVos.
tweet and retweet it for you.
By the way, that's her name, Betsy DeVos. Well, I retweet the other guy on their website. I retweet his stuff. So now we're stuck in a in a very confusing Twitter timeline where it's half the time they're tweeting stuff about how the Yankees lose and the other stuff about how they win. Whatever happens, they just seem to like to mention it. The preeminent Twitter.
I don't know, though, man. I think you're going to start seeing stuff like that happen.
I do think Kanye, being more of a...
I'll tell you what.
Even though he's more like a quasi-MAGA guy, he never says, although he does have some, supposed, opinions on, on, trade and, factory stuff. That kind of surprised me to hear him going into that stuff. I'm like... I think you're getting a little out of your depth here, Kanye. Yeah, I don't...
Well, no, I'm saying, I'll tell you what would be great for a cultural shift is if he can get Kaepernick to go to the White House, and somehow, I don't know how they would do this. I don't even know if I'd be for it, unless it just overwhelmingly helped us in the cultural battle, is somehow Trump and Kaepernick got along and did something. Did something to bring both sides together.
I don't think so.
Look, I know it's very far-fetched. This is just something that I'm saying. If it did happen,
I'd like to see a commercial with,
It would be great.
with them playing some backyard football. Kaepernick.
Well, no, I'm saying like if they just met, they talked about it. If like after it came out, Trump said, "You know what? Look, I was a little bit wrong on necessarily." No. He wouldn't say that. I know he wouldn't say that. If he said,
you said the W word.
I looked at this, and I think that we could improve our relationship. Something along the lines of like basically just saying that like how Kaepernick went about it was wrong, but I understand what he's saying, and we've both come to a realization that we need to work together on something. Just general outline of what they could say.
Yeah. You fill in. You put it in with the words.
Well, just depending on the topic.
It'll actually be less. If Trump says it, it'll probably be even less well stated than that. That general. It'll just be like, it was great, very powerful man.
Kaepernick said he loves me.
Yeah, he loves me. He's
my big brain.
A very big brain. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I do think Kanye, like, being the MAGA guy is something that's like...
I'm saying, if he can get that done and something fruitful comes out of it, it doesn't even matter how fruitful, just anything more than them going away talking shit about each other, which would most likely happen. But if it didn't happen, they just went away mutually... Like, we're going to look into this, We're going to look at this. You stop being an asshole wearing Fidel Castro on your shirt, and we can make this work,
It just does not seem likely.
It doesn't. I'm just saying that would be a tremendous shift in the culture, is if they could get that done.
Maybe. I don't know, though. It's not like I see a lot of people going along with Kanye. And Kanye's had such a history of saying crazy things where I think people just, like... they just sort of like put him off.
He just has to get that meeting done. That's all it needs to happen.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know if I see that as a culture shift, as more just like, well, Kanye's always been kind of a jackass, and now he's just like doing crazy shit.
No, I think it would be a very big shift because it would show. Because Kanye by himself, it looks a little weird. Like people just think he's crazy, like whatever. And everybody always thought that, so it's just another thing he's doing. But
he's a genius.
If he brings Kaepernick in and gets that done, one, it would show that the Republicans are willing to hear out the other side. And then we would have to wait on the reaction. Because one, we could get a reaction that would just, de-escalate everything, which would be great.
Doubt it.
Or the other thing that would happen is they would turn on Kaepernick and something would happen under that line, and then it would show at least the moderates how far the left is willing to go against Donald Trump. So it would bring at least moderates a little closer.
Maybe. I don't know. But I'd definitely like to see that. You'd hope it would get... I'd like to see it be de-escalated.
I would love to see it de-escalate, man. Like it's crazy.
If there is any de-escalation, it's just a fraught thing that's just meant to go back and forth, just like the Joker and Batman. We're meant to do this dance forever.
Yeah, I mean maybe so, but it's just.
Who do you think?
So
who's the Joker?
Huh?
I said they're the Jokers, right? Right?
I don't care who the Joker is. Sometimes somebody would say maybe he's the good one.
He's Batman. He would say that. We're getting close to the end of our time here, so I hate to jump in quick with something.
It sounds like we're just gonna have to do a completely other one.
Yeah, probably.
Just do two of them.
Probably just pump them out, but
because this one's almost all political.
Yeah.
Do one completely on sports.
No, because this is coming out. I want the Khabib Conor fight is happening Saturday, so you gotta get your.
I meant like right after this.
Well, okay, then we'll do that one next, but we release that one first.
Just release them at the same time.
No.
Come on, technology guy.
I don't want to. Let people catch their breath, all this entertainment.
They went a week and a half without us putting anything out. They can handle 2 of them.
I mean, I'll put them relatively close, but not like on the same day. Just, I'm clutching my pearls as you say that. Goodness. He's crazy. Well, in that case, do you want to talk about the James Wood thing then?
Yeah, I mean, he's actually still suspended, I assume, because his last tweet was from September 20th.
What did he get? Oh, right. Now I remember it.
So, yeah, he put basically, he just tweeted out a parody thing. It's actually pretty funny. You know, probably something that, like, 4chan or Reddit put out there. And it basically was, like, a picture of these, like, male feminists or whatever saying, like, we should not go out and vote, so it would make women's vote count more. So we support women going and voting, but we will stay home. And basically put this out there and said, you know, this is a parody. But
he said this is probably a parody.
Yeah, he said this is probably a parody, but because of how the left has been recently, it would not surprise me if this was real either.
Yeah.
So, you know, something like that.
Very mild.
And so, yeah, they suspended him for that because he wouldn't delete it.
Yeah. That one was nuts. But, I mean, just because of how absolutely, like, nothing of a statement that was. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He even said in his tweet that it was probably a parody.
Yeah, and then like that, the thing they said like they clocked him for was like releasing stuff that could be potentially influential to an election.
Yeah, which is bullshit because everything you tweet
could
be considered that.
Yeah, if you have any sort of clout and you say anything political, like like
Alyssa Milano can't be kicked off of Twitter for the shit she posts about Kavanaugh.
By the way, what does she do these days?
She's a political activist. That's the problem. It's these people that don't have anything to do.
Wasn't she an actress?
Yes, she was on that